Hey there, listeners. Welcome to PTK Pulse, your one-stop shop for insights, inspiration, and everything PTK. Brought to you by Alpha Theta Omicron at Rio Salado College, we're diving deep into the world around us, one interview at a time. For our 2024 Honors in Action project, we're on a mission to connect with our community and showcase their stories. Join us as we chat with folks from all walks of life, learning about their passions and experiences. So, grab your headphones or turn up the volume, sit back, and let the stories come to you. This is PTK Pulse.
In this episode, we're going to be having queer conversations, exploring identity, love, and community, hosted by myself, Saffron Wells. I personally identify as non-binary, with my pronouns being she, they. Joining me today is guest speaker Dellara Ward, who uses she, they pronouns and is a member of the LGBTQIA+ community. She is majoring in communications at Rio Salado College, where she also works full-time helping students enroll into their courses. Dellara, thank you for joining me and for being willing to speak about your story.
Hi, Saffron. I am so happy to be here and so thankful that I get to tell my story for everybody to hear.
Love it. All right, so let's get into it. Tell me and our listeners a little bit about yourself and how you identify. What's your origin story?
So I personally also identify as non-binary. Like you said, I use she, they pronouns. I kind of came to the realization of this through a lot of searching, a lot of people that I knew, and just really people explaining things to me, opening my worldview, and showing me that it is okay to be different and that it is okay to question who you are in a sensible, safe, and just good way. It's you can learn a lot about yourself by introspection.
I like that. So I know you kind of bring up how people and having this kind of safe space to explore yourself was really important for bringing about your origin story. Would you say that there are any events or moments that actually really helped you realize and sink in this is my portion of my identity, this is my identity?
So there were definitely a lot of events and people that contributed to me coming out, as you would call it, or just realizing what I am and what I have been. For my gender, I'm non-binary, like I said, and one of the main events that contributed to me realizing this was my time at NAU, Northern Arizona University. I had a lot of friends in the music program who identified as non-binary, agender, asexual, all of the other letters of the queer community, the LGBTQIA plus community, and just realizing that there are things that you can be, and hearing their explanations of it really opened my mind. And one of my best friends at NAU was non-binary, and they really opened my eyes to that. It is I related so much to what their experience was and how they described it. And for my sexuality, which I realized I didn't say,
It's okay.
I identify as bisexual. Um, that kind of just has always been something that I've related to. I never really had any extreme preference when looking into romantic or more physical relationships. And yeah, so after a lot of analyzing and just reading about different sexualities, I realized that bisexual is what kind of fits the best with how I feel at this moment. But gender and sexuality are both spectrums, and there's no real rush to figure yourself out. So it's okay to keep figuring yourself out. I know I definitely still am.
I like that you bring that up because you are a student and an employee at a community college where lifelong learning and exploring and curiosity is like really spoken about in these communities.
Hmm.
So I do like that you touch base on gender and sexual identity and stuff being very much a spectrum and not just like a one stop, here it is, I'm done kind
Yeah.
of thing. Okay, so I guess that would kind of we kind of touched or I brought up a little bit about community. So speaking of your community, has there been any particular role models or members within the queer community who have inspired you?
I'd say in so there's two people at least that I can think of at this time that I would call role models. The first one being a role model for a few different reasons. Um, Sam Smith. They recently came out as non binary, I think, a few years ago. And it's really, they've gone through a bit of like more public transition for their identity, and it's been displayed through their music. And just seeing that even if you are non binary, even if you are like whatever you identify as, it doesn't need to fit a specific gender norm or a societal like expectation of what you should represent it as. There's definitely like again, it's a spectrum. It's about what you feel inside. It's not about what people see you as, because people can see you as however they want, but it's about how you feel yourself, how you feel more secure or more safe, more realized in your own body. That is what matters. And seeing how Sam Smith has really embraced their body and is really loving who they are and expressing themselves in that gender, how they feel the most comfortable, is really inspiring to me. And I would say that the other role model that I have at this time is Hari Neff. Harry, I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it, but she was in the recent Barbie movie. She was, I believe, the neurosurgeon Barbie. She has red hair, super pretty, and she's trans. And she is just living her life. She is she's a neurosurgeon, allegedly, and no one treats her any differently. No one asks her what she's got going on. No one treats her like she's something different. She is just herself. And that is really affirming to see. It's really refreshing to see as well, because it's so easy to just rely on what people think about how you exist and rely on that to dictate how you should be. And honestly, that is such a toxic worldview, to rely on others' views of yourself to justify your own existence in your own representation. And seeing her being herself proudly in this movie and as this character is so it is so nice to see, and it is very very validating, and I love that she was in it. And uh, a really nice role model.
I love that, and I love hearing and seeing how like excited and just like positive these role models make you feel. So thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so kind of moving a little bit away from the role model. I've personally been asked this question a lot, and I figure I might as well ask you it. What was your experience coming out to family, friends, or coworkers?
So I will say that my experience coming out is one of the better ones, but I hate that it is not the norm because I have had just a really smooth time coming out to almost everybody in my life. My coworkers kind of saw my transition happening in real time over the course of years as I was figuring myself out. And now that I've started a new position and I've started with this confident out and just proud version of myself, I have gotten nothing but support and camaraderie from my coworkers and my colleagues, from my friends. Of course, they're my friends for a reason because I knew that they would accept me. I knew that they would love me for who I am, and that is why I chose for them to be my friends. Like, it was a no-brainer that they would accept me.
Mm-hmm.
And if they didn't, well, that's unfortunately just one less friend that I had, but luckily that didn't happen. That's not the same for everybody. And like I said, it does suck that that is not the norm, especially with family. I have come out to a few members of my family, the ones that I talk to mostly, and they have been super accepting. Honestly, it was a little surprising how easily that they were accepting of me, because we always get this perception of like you come out to your family and there's this whole big hoopla and like scuffle and conflict that arises when you do that because you're challenging their worldview, their beliefs, you're making an enemy of them. But like that's not always how it happens because your family is supposed to love you no matter what. And luckily mine did. They accepted me super easily. If anything, they saw it before I did.
They're like, oh, we knew.
Yeah, that's honestly how it happened. Like my uncle was just like, "Oh yeah, I kind of always felt something, but I was waiting for you to say it." And I was like, "You couldn't have told me sooner. I would have liked to have known sooner."
Oh, wow.
um, and my dad was also really accepting, but the flip side of that is that I was so afraid that they wouldn't be accepting that I was ready to cut the relationship off to go for the nuclear option. And unfortunately, that is what a lot of people have to be ready to do. And they have to have backup plans for living or providing for themselves. And that is such a terrifying thing that people don't really understand sometimes.
Yeah. I like how you bring that up because you're right. When you have an identity that conflicts, and it doesn't have to just necessarily be like you're part of the queer community, like how we are. Instead, it's you just have, there's an aspect of your identity that conflicts with the family dynamic that you're currently a part of. It's like, do you stay true to yourself and come out about this part of your identity? Or do you not show it at all to like kind of keep that family dynamic?
Yeah.
And so I really like that you brought that up, that it can change someone's life drastically. And sometimes it is not positive, and sometimes it is positive, but thank you for bringing that up. So I guess just in general, how would you say your experience has helped shape your worldview or perspective on life?
I would definitely say that being more, well, I'll split it into two differences. Before I realized and came out, and then after I realized and came out and became more involved and confident in my identity. So my worldview before I came out was kind of the same, but it was very ignorant, unintentionally, of course. But I really didn't know. I didn't have the vocabulary or the experience to really ask the questions that I needed to ask people, or to have the mindset to assume that everybody is different, and to assume that you can't assume anything about anybody until you ask. Because honestly, that is something that people really don't understand and like don't know. So being a part of a community that is still being understood even by its own members, like you have to look to yourself first and realize that nobody can know you better than you, because they don't have your experiences. They don't understand how life has been for you better than you do, but they can help you realize that. They can help you have a clearer picture, have a clearer path to follow down so that you can better understand yourself and other people. And going down that path has led me to this current worldview where I am so much more open to different ideas and perspectives. And like every day I learn something new, and I am glad that I learned it because it can help somebody else down the road that might not have known it. And so that kind of leads into my perspective now, which is that you have to be open. Well, you don't have to be, but it's very helpful for everybody if you are more open, more open-minded, more open to just different ideas and perspectives, and willing to learn something from everybody that you meet, because learning and growing as a person it's honestly fun. It is so fun to think back, to look back and realize how much you've grown and how much you have learned and experienced, and how much would have gone to waste if you had been closed off, closed minded, intentionally ignorant of people's different identities and experiences and lives. Because everybody is unique. Everybody has their own story, and we need to hear everybody's story.
So I really like that you kind of touch base on like how important it is, not just for other people and not just for the community, but for yourself to really like become a little bit more open-minded and tolerable to things that you haven't experienced yet, or things that make you kind of uncomfortable. Um, so I guess that leads to my final question, which is, what advice would you give to allies or to people who want to be more inclusive of the queer community?
So I could probably go at length to the amount of advice I could give to people. But first and foremost, be patient and ask questions in a respectful manner that is not in any way aggressive, and you can learn so much about somebody. The stories that they can tell, the information that they can say will just come flowing out of them if you are patient, empathetic, and you take the time to really listen to them. So listen to them. Ask them how their experiences, what they've gone through, what made them the person they are today. And honestly, for the people who like don't know how to ask someone their pronouns, just ask them. The only wrong way to ask, the only wrong way to ask is to assume, because then that's just not asking. You have to open that line of communication Show them that you are willing to hear them out, hear their perspectives, their ideals, to listen to what they have to say, and to show them that you are open minded, you are ready to listen. And it will go so far for them. Just hearing people introduce themselves with their pronouns, even if you are cisgendered. So, cisgender being identifying as the sex you were assigned at birth. So, hearing cisgender people opening themselves up and identifying themselves, saying their pronouns, it's as simple as that. Just say your pronouns. And it opens up the floor to a more inclusive dialogue with everybody around you, because it shows that you are, at the very least, knowledgeable that that is important to people. Showing that you care for the tiniest little bit of energy that it takes to say he, him, she, her, they, them, she, they, whatever. It shows that you care. It shows that you have the patience and the empathy to listen to people's stories and to really learn about them. And that will make someone's day, that will make someone's life, that will save someone's life. So take that little bit of time and really save lives.
Thank you for bringing that up, because pronouns they are people. So, all right, well, thank you so much for speaking with me today and sharing your story, Dellara.
Mm-hmm.
I learned a lot from this talk, and I really look forward to actually hearing from you again when we talk about neurodiversity next.
I am so thankful that you brought me on to speak about this, to tell my story, and I am also really thankful that you will be bringing me on next time to talk about neurodiversity.
That is all for this episode of PTK Pulse. We hope you enjoyed hearing from our special guest. As this is for our research project, please help us out by leaving a comment below mentioning what you liked about this episode, things we can improve on, and what else you'd like to hear from in the future episodes. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Alpha Theta Omicron for more updates and behind-the-scenes content. And stay tuned for our next episode where we'll keep the storytelling going. Thank you for listening.